Since it's fall, I decided to make a pumpkin ice cream. It's going to be like a pumpkin spice. And instead of using pumpkin from a can, I decided to use a actual pumpkin. This is not a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. This is a pumpkin pie pumpkin. I guess they taste different. They cook a little bit differently. And it's little, so it's really cute. It's pretty easy to do, actually. I'm just going to put it in the toaster oven and cook it for about maybe 45 minutes, maybe a half an hour. It's depending on the size of the pumpkin. I just go by the smell. When I start to smell the pumpkin, then I know it's ready. And once that's done, I'm just going to take the top off, take the pulp out, and then I'll show you how to make everything else for the ice cream. That took about half an hour at 450 degrees, and I've got this pumpkin, still pretty hot, but it's nice and brown, and it smells really good, so I know it's ready. All I'm going to do is just cut the top off. It's not really an exact science. You just try not to get burned while you're doing it. And I'm just going to take the seeds out. So I'm just going to kind of take a spoon and put them in a bowl. I'm going to put these in the compost later. You can get some of the pulp while you're doing this accidentally, and that's fine, but for the most part you just want to get the seeds, and then you're going to take the pulp and put it in a separate container. And I would say it's about 2 things of ice cream that 1 pumpkin will make. Still some seeds. Don't want to get any seeds in my pulp, so I just want to make sure to get them all out. Okay, that was pretty easy. Now I'm ready to take my next spoon and put my pumpkin pulp. I'm going to turn this over so it's easier, just to show you what this looks like. It's kind of falling apart, but that's good. You want it to be like that. It's kind of like when you make a squash for dinner and you want the skin to be kind of soft and falling apart. So I'm just taking out the pulp, and it comes out really easily from the skin. I don't have to, see, the skin almost peels off as you're doing it. So it's not really difficult. So I'm going to take that pulp, put it in this container, and half of it I'm going to store for later, and half of it I'm going to use to make my ice cream. Now that I've got my pumpkin all out of the gourd, I'm going to take my sugar and cook it in the microwave. I always think it's better to take this, I use monk fruit sweetener. This one happens to be a brown variety because I like it better for the pumpkin spice. I take about a half a cup. I don't measure anything. Kind of throw it in there, but it's about a half a cup. And I mix it with a little bit of almond milk and put it in the microwave. Doesn't matter how much, just enough to get it wet. Put it in the microwave for about a minute to warm it up and melt it. I think that helps to get everything blended. So now that I've microwaved this, it kind of looks a little melted. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I just like to do it. Someday I'm going to test doing the exact same recipe without putting it in the microwave. Eventually I'll do that. I'm putting 1 scoop of protein powder, some cottage cheese. You can use whatever kind you want. This one happens to be small curd 4% milk fat, but you can use any variety. And I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to put some in this cup. And keep in mind, it's my super pint, my deluxe pint is a little bit more than this container, so I don't want to fill it too high. So I'm going to put a little bit of cottage cheese, and I'm going to put half of my pumpkin mixture. This pumpkin is just straight from the pumpkin, so it has no flavoring in it. I'm going to add my flavoring after and mix it all up. So I'm just approximating half. After I put my flavoring in, I might add a little more pumpkin. Now the flavoring. You can use whatever you want really, but I'm going to use traditional pumpkin pie spices. So I'm going to put a little bit of nutmeg in here. Nutmeg, you have to be really careful of adding too much, so I'm kind of putting my hand over it so I don't get too much nutmeg. Cinnamon, I can be a little more liberal with. Still don't want to add too much, but definitely want enough so it tastes like kind of like pie. I'll taste it to check it, but just eyeballing it. This is vanilla bean paste. I use it in almost all of my ice creams. I just think it has such a good flavor. I add the paste and actual vanilla. This vanilla happens to be Madagascar bourbon, but you can use whatever kind you want. And I wanted to smell it because I was thinking about adding rum, but I decided against it because I don't want the bourbon and the rum to mix, so I'm just gonna go with that. I think that'll be really good. Now, I think I've got everything. I'm gonna add a little bit more cottage cheese to get it to the top, and important ingredient, salt. I always add salt. Of course, there is a little bit of salt in the cottage cheese, but I like to add a sprinkle more. It seems to bring out the flavor. And now I'm ready to mix this up and taste. I blended this up, and after tasting it, it tasted like it needed something. I added a little bit more pumpkin, and I made this once before and I added a little bit of rum. I have to be careful when I add rum because it's really a strong flavor, but I think it added a lot of depth to it. I was debating whether to put it in. I'm gonna put a tiny bit in. I would say just like a capful. So I'm using it kind of like an extract. So that tiny bit should just add a little bit of flavor, but it shouldn't make it taste like rum pumpkin. So I'm gonna blend this up, put it in my, actually I don't need to blend it up because it's just a little bit of rum in there. So I'm just gonna pour it right into my deluxe. And freeze it, and we'll see what we get tomorrow. After freezing this 24 hours, I'm ready to spin it, and I have a choice on how to spin this. It looks like this, nice flat top. Smells good too. Smells like spice enough, like it's got enough cinnamon in it. You could either mix this on the regular ice cream setting because the pumpkin's a good emulsifier, or the light setting because I used a lot of light ingredients. I used almond milk and protein powder, so that would work. It would make it more of a soft serve texture. Or today what I'm going to try is the gelato. It makes a thicker ice cream, and that's kind of what I'm in the mood for tonight. So I'm going to spin this and see how it comes out. This is how it came out on the first spin. It looks pretty good, but it's a little bit chunky. So now I have a choice. I could respin it again on gelato, or I think what I'm going to do is just do a short little mix in. So I'm going to do full and click on the mix in button. Here's how it looks. I actually had to do the mix in a few times, so I probably would have been better to just do it on the gelato setting twice. Sometimes you're not sure. Sometimes it's better to underspin than overspin. Now it looks perfect, so I'm ready to scoop it out. And it looks like, feels like a pretty nice scoop. And before I add any toppings to it, I want to taste it just as it is. As far as toppings go, I thought it would be really good to have some walnuts chopped and also some caramel that I made. This is actually made with regular sugar, but first I'm going to taste it without anything. It's good. I would say I probably should have added a little bit more sugar, and so the caramel on top is going to be perfect. And it's not as creamy as the last time I made it, so I'm guessing next time I would suggest a little bit of guar gum. Sometimes it's hard to tell if you should use it. It's weird. The last time I made it, my pumpkin seemed a little bit more flavorful and a little bit thicker, like a better emulsifier. This time it was a little bit different, even though I cooked it the same. So I guess that's an advantage to using the can instead of the whole pumpkin. I thought it was fun to use the whole pumpkin, but there's a little bit of variety in what you're going to get. So I'm just gonna add my walnuts and my yummy caramel, show you what it looks like, and have another bite. And I'm sure it's gonna be better with that yummy caramel on there. A lot better.